خیلی متشکرم که به من وقت دادین و در این گفتگو شرکت کردین. در ابتدای امر خیلی از ما پرسیدن که واقعا خانم شکدم کی هست؟ کاترین، شما کی هستید؟
Okay, I'm just going to go back to the very beginning. So I'm French. I was born and raised in Paris. You know, my family is of Jewish ancestry. Actually, one of my grandfather on my mother's side fought Nazi Germany. He joined the French resistance against Germany very, very early on in the 1930s. He was made prisoner twice and managed to, you know, to free himself. And my grandfather on my father's side was actually in a camp. So I have a complicated history. I was raised very secular, so religion wasn't very much an issue in my house, as in, you know, both my parents felt that they wanted me to be raised in the French tradition of laicity and secularism. So my understanding of religion was very, very superficial, and it's not something that we discussed at home very often. I then moved to the UK to attend university, where I basically met my now ex-husband, who happens to be, you know, Yemeni Muslim, Sunni Muslim. And after we got married, I was asked to convert to Islam, which I did, not necessarily at the beginning, you know, out of conviction, but more to, you know, to kind of abide by his wishes, because, you know, we had a, you know, by then we were married, we had a family, so I just felt that, you know, something that he was very, you know, very adamant that he wanted this to happen, so I did. And then I got very curious about, you know, Islam, because, I mean, if you're going to be Muslim, you might as well understand what is it about. So I studied on my own. I never had a teacher. And I very, very quickly leaned towards Shia Islam, because I felt, for me, that it was historically more accurate. I felt that it was more representative of the values, you know, that I was reading about in the Quran. And that caused a lot of frictions in my marriage, you know, especially towards the end, as I became a bit more vocal about Shia Islam, as I felt very much living in the Middle East, that there was a lot of sectarianism, a lot of hatred directed at Shia Muslims, and I felt that it was profoundly unfair, as Islam, you know, advocates compassion and tolerance and freedom of religion. So I never understood, you know, this whole narrative, you know, around, you know, Sunni Islam and Shia Islam and the vilification of Shia Islam. So I think that kind of put me in the Shia Muslim camp, and by association in Iran's camp. And I think that's what sparked people's interest towards me, as initially my writings were very political. I was quite vocal against Saudi Arabia's human rights violation. I also talked about those policies in Israel that I didn't agree about. And I think that a lot of the things that I said were misunderstood as a vilification of an entire people. My criticism was on the policies, so purely political and nothing to do with religion. And I think that I got lumped with, you know, anti-Zionism and, you know, the whole anti-Saudi narrative. And then Iran basically reached out to me, asking me to participate in TV interviews and do some writings and you know, various other projects with the media in Iran. And I think that because of it, and I was completely cut off by then from any other opinions. I kind of got, I bought into, you know, Iran's regime's narrative, and that's my fault, as in I didn't attempt to, you know, check the other side and actually try to remain objective. I lost my objectivity and got completely, I basically became a tool of you know, propaganda for Iran.
Excuse me, just I ask introduce yourself. I will ask about another things later. Okay. کاترین، میشه لطفاً بهم بگی که در دانشگاه چی خوندی، چه چیزی رو تحصیل کردی، تحصیلاتت چی هست و الان چند سال شما چند سالتون هست؟ I know it's a bit, maybe it's difficult Question, lady.
It's absolutely fine. I'm 40 years old, and I studied at the London School of Economics. So I have 2 masters. I have one in finance and the other one in communication. So it's not, I mean, I fell into politics because my background has nothing to do with anything. It was more out of curiosity and a desire to speak on behalf of, you know, not really speak on behalf of, but I always felt that some of the reports coming out of, you know, Western media when it came to the Middle East were very inaccurate for a lack of lived-in experience. And that a lot of the time Westerners spoke of the Middle East from their own perspective, you know, and their experience, as opposed to trying to portray people's experience on the ground and understand, you know, from a historical standpoint, you know, why, you know, the Middle East, you know, was facing the problem that it is facing today and continue to face. And often kind of whitewashing, you know, the fact that colonialism, you know, and the intervention, military intervention of many Western capitals, you know, wreaked havoc in the Middle East. I mean, might it be Yemen or, you know, Syria, Iraq. They were kind of rejecting any form of responsibility, which I felt was, you know, unfair and hypocritical. So I tried to give a vision of the Middle East that was as objective as I could. And it kind of landed me where it landed me.
از کی شما با ایران آشنا شدید؟
Oh, the first time I was actually I was 15 years old, and I read a very interesting book called Not Without My Daughter, about this American lady who married an Iranian man just around the time of the Islamic Revolution, and she traveled back in the 80s to Iran, and she suffered quite a great deal. In that her husband, you know, turned quite abusive and violent towards her, and she had to escape. You know, she had to cross Iran, basically, you know, escape through Turkey to then, you know, seek refuge to the American embassy in Istanbul. And that book really made an impression of me, and I was, you know, even then, I got very curious about, you know, the regime in Iran, about the Islamic Revolution. And so I proceeded, you know, I read quite a lot of books about, you know, Ayatollah Khomeini, his visit in Paris, you know, the whole revolution against the Shah, who was the Shah, the White Revolution, you know, since I was about 15 and onwards. Obviously, I got married and then ended up living in Yemen for about 4 years. There was a lot of talk about, you know, Iran's influence in the Middle East. And so I proceeded to read, you know, other books about, you know, the history of Iran, you know, from the very beginning. I mean, going back to Alexander the Great. And I just always find it fascinating because I think there are so many parallels between France and Iran, you know, in the way that, you know, Iran is a really old country with a very rich culture when it comes to arts and literature and poetry, and it's something that always fascinated me because I felt that the French and the Iranians were actually really similar in their interest and the way that they see things. And I never really understood how you could go from, you know, living under the Shah to the Islamic Revolution, whereas Iran had a very secular, you know, way of life under the Shah and was, you know, was truly, I would say, a Western nation in that it was very modern. It was moving towards, you know, further modernization. It was quite friendly with many countries around the region, had a very positive impact on regional stability. And then there was this massive backlash. And I could understand the you know, the desire to remain true to your religious tradition and identity. I did understand that. And I fully supported it. And for a long time, I felt that, you know, the Ayatollahs were actually a good thing for Iranians because I believed that that's what Iranians wanted. And I'm always been a defender of political self-determination. So for me, if a country desires a particular form of government, we ought to support it, you know, on the basis of democracy and the right for people to choose how they want to be governed. But then I realized that it wasn't the whole story, which is a shame. But I realized that.
Excuse me, I would be happy to know all of your opinion, but because I planned all of the question I want.
Oh, sure, of course, my apologies.
Okay, don't worry. کاترین، لطف می‌کنی به اون بگی که چطور با همسر یمنیت آشنا شدی و چی شد که با یک فرد یمنی و مسلمون ازدواج کردی؟
I don't know really. I met him at university. I mean, he wasn't going to the same university as me, but his friends did. So we met. And I was raised, my family was quite traditional when it came to, relationships. And I was always told that if you were interested in someone and you were serious about them, you had to get married. And so, he paid attention to me, and I was very young and very naive, I think. I did not understand. Look, in France, we had a very vibrant Muslim community, but mainly from North Africa, and they tend to be quite secular. So I had no understanding of what that meant to be a traditional practicing Muslim. I had no idea that Sunni and Shia Islam existed. So for me, I just saw a person that I was very fond of, and he asked me to marry him, and I said yes. My family wasn't particularly happy about it. For many reasons, and it was very simple. It wasn't complicated. I think that when you're young, you have no real perspective or understanding of what it means to be married, or pay attention to such thing as religious differences or political differences, because I didn't have any real opinions of my own. I was very, very young. I was just starting my life. It was my first year at university. And I just fell in love and got married. That was simple for me.
کی از همسرتون جدا شدین؟ چه سالی بود و بعد از اون آیا ازدواج کردین مجدد؟
Oh no! That was my first marriage. I've been married only once. I was married when I was 18 years old, and we were married for about 13 years. Got a divorce.
You didn't marry again?
No.
Okay. So once was enough, yes?
Yeah, I think I'm good. I'm okay now.
Okay, maybe too much. Okay. چی شد که به ایران دعوت شدی و ماجرای دعوتت به ایران رو برامون تعریف کن و چی شد که به ایران اومدی؟ آیا زمانی که به ایران اومده بودی دیگه از همسرت جدا شده بودی، همسر یمنیت، یا در همون زمانی بود که ازدواج کرده بود، یعنی متأهل بودی؟
Okay, so the first time I was invited to Iran was, I think, in 2000, and it was either 2015 and 2016. And at the time, yes, my marriage was pretty much over. And I think the whole Iranian trip kind of did it. He was profoundly anti-Shia. So when I stepped into Iran, that was the end of our marriage. Interestingly enough, he actually thought that I was a spy for Iran, which is ridiculous, but that's what he thought. And it was I was invited to attend the Palestine conference that was organized in Tehran, I believe by the parliament, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason why I went, it's not every day that you get invited to Iran. Iran is a country that is so impossible to get to for many reasons. It felt so out of reach that when the opportunity came, of course I went. I was fascinated by Iran, very, very much curious about Iranian society. I just wanted to see, where history took place. I mean, 1979 changed everything. And again, to have the opportunity to see it for myself, I couldn't pass on this opportunity. And I really wanted to, there's a big difference in reading about a country, learning about a country, and experiencing the country from for yourself by visiting and meeting its people. And I really wanted to do that to get a better sense of what Iran was like for Iranians. I wanted to understand the ideology. I wanted to see for myself. It's very simple. There is no second agenda other than educate myself and make sure that what I believed to be true was true by witnessing, and experiencing Iran for myself.
کاترین، فکر میکنم برای اینکه بخوای با یک فرد مسلمون ازدواج کنی، اونم مسلمون یمنی، باید مسلمون میشدی، درسته؟ آیا رسما مسلمون شده بودی؟
After.
یادت هست که چطور مسلمون شدی؟ یعنی چه کاری کردی برای اینکه مسلمون بشی؟
No, well, the only thing I was asked to do is read Shahada, and that was it. So it wasn't complicated. There was no witnesses. I did this, with my husband at the time. We were walking actually by the seafront in Brighton, and it took 2 minutes, and that was it. I was told I was being Muslim. And at the time, I really didn't understand it very much. I didn't know anything about Islam at all, other than I had to, in order, to have a happy family life and to make my husband happy, and I did it.
آیا همچنان مسلمون هستی؟
Am I Muslim today? Is that the question?
Yes.
No. Well, I'm going to say this. It's not like I changed my mind. I still believe that some of the principles of Islam are universal and true. That will never change. I do not agree with the religious authorities and what they made of Islam, because I do not believe, whether Sunni or Shia, by the way, I do not believe in what they say and how they portray Islam to be and the interpretation that they make of it. I think they sullied a very beautiful message, a universal message, and turn it into something that I found nefarious and violent and hateful.
کاترین، به من میگی که یعنی تو مسلمون شدی و از اسلام خارج شدی، درسته؟
Yes.
چی شد؟ دلیل اصلی چی بود که از اسلام خارج شد؟
Clerics, the religious authorities across the board. I found them despicable.
نترسیدی اون زمان؟ میدونی که در واقع کسی که مسلمون میشه و از اسلام خارج میشه یه حکمی داره در اسلام به نام ارتداد و در واقع بایستی که کشته بشه از دید اسلام. این رو میدونی یا میدونستی قبل از اینکه مسلمون بشی و نمیترسی از این موضوع؟
Yes, I do. I do know about this, and that was one of the reasons why I did it, because I found that if a religion feels the need to blackmail you and threaten your life on the basis of freedom of choice, there's a very profound problem with the religion itself. I don't believe it to be true. If Islam is actually speaking so hatefully about people because they feel that they need to have a journey that is different from other people, and not have enough compassion and tolerance to understand that people will do and have to do what they believe to be true, and be truly honest with themselves. Why would you want to keep people into your religion if they are not sincere in their belief? Why lying? Why being hypocritical? If you believe that God knows what's in your heart, then he's going to have to accept the freedom of choice that he's given you by virtue of your birth. And I think that clerics do that to hold people hostage to a certain belief system. I do believe to this day that Islam is at its core compassionate and tolerant. And if anyone believes any different, they are not worthy to call themselves clerics or Muslims. You have to be kind to other people and respect their choice, even if you disagree with them, as long as they're not harming anyone. It's only, this is my choice. That has no impact on other people's lives. And I haven't changed as a person. I still believe the same thing that I believe. I just refuse to be associated to a religion who, in my mind, is creating a great deal of harm to other communities on the basis of a sectarianism. I cannot tolerate sectarianism. I cannot tolerate calls for genocide on the basis of ethnicity or religion or anything else. We have to respect one another. For me, this is a value that I'm not willing to, to tamper with. I'm not willing to negotiate.
کاترین، میخوام بپرسم که الان تو چه دینی داری؟ آیا اصلا به دین خاصی بعد از اسلام گرایش پیدا کردی؟ چه دینی داری الان؟ میتونم بپرسم این سوال ازت؟
I'm not a big fan of religion on the basis of what I've explained, is that if a religion, in order to exist, has to reject other people and preach hatred, I refuse. I refuse to abide by those rules. So I'm not following any religion.
شما زمانی که در ایران بودید، میخوام ببینم جمعاً شما چند روز در ایران بودید؟ میدونید چند روز در ایران بودید کل زمانی که در ایران به ایران سفر داشتید؟
I really don't. I think, look, every time that I went there, I was there for about between 4 to 5 days at the time, around, this kind of time frame. And I went there about 5 times or so. I can't remember. We need to go and look at my passport, to know. But yeah, I've been in Iran, quite often. For about 3 years. I used to go at least about twice a year for 3 years, about. And yeah, I they were short visits. I never lived in Iran. So every time it was very short. It was London, Tehran, London, and that was it.
مقامات رسمی جمهوری اسلامی گفتن شما جمعاً 18 روز بودید. آیا 18 روز بوده؟ یعنی کل زمانی که شما در ایران سپری کردید 18 روز بوده. آیا درسته؟ تایید می‌کنی؟
Probably. It sounds about right, yeah.
Okay.
They would know. They would know more than me because they have the records. I would need to check, and I don't think it's really relevant, but
در 18 روز شما ارتباط‌های زیادی رو پیدا می‌کنید، در رسانه‌ها حضور پیدا می‌کنید در طول مدت زمان متفاوتی. شما آیا من میخوام بدونم که چه کسی شما رو به ایران دعوت کرد در بار نخست و بارهای بعدی؟ آیا از سمت شخص خاصی، رسانه خاصی، سازمان خاصی دعوت شدید برای حضور در ایران در هر باری که تشریف آوردید؟
Every time it was different. The first time was, an official invitation from the government. Everything was, organized. The second time, I need to remember correctly. I went a second time to do the interview with, President Raisi. That was for RT. So they arranged for, tickets and everything. And it was Nader Talebzadeh who organized the interview itself with President Raisi, as he knew him and offered to assist RT in organizing the logistics of the interview. I went again. I went once to visit some friends. I took my children as I wanted them to see Iran as well. So there was no work involved. It was just purely tourism. And then another couple or 3 times, it was to meet with people who were actively trying to fight the MEK. And they've asked me if I could basically meet with them, have an understanding of who the MEK was, the danger that they represented, not just for Iran, but, for people around the world, and to try to expose them, by writing articles in the press, which I did, because I thought it was important to stand up to terrorism, because the MEK is a terrorist organization. And that was it. So every time it was for, different purpose. I was actually asked once to write a book on Iran's political journey. So, I went to Iran to have a discussion around that for a book. But that's it. So, I met many, many different people in Iran, and I wasn't always very clear about who was what and working with whom. Because, obviously I don't speak Farsi, and people tell you they work for NGOs, you know, and defending human rights and things like this. And I'm always willing to help. So as long as I felt that, you know, it was a positive thing to do, I accepted. And then obviously in Iran, I was asked to do a little bit of a press tour. So went to Press TV, you know, did various interviews for different media, and, you know, things like this.
دفعات، یعنی آخرین دفعه‌ای که شما به ایران دعوت شدید از سمت چه کسی بودش؟
It was an organization called Foda Sun, and it was, you know, this organization that is fighting the MEK.
رابطتون چه شخصی بود؟ میتونید بهمون بگین که چه کسی کارهای هماهنگی شما رو انجام میداد برای دعوت؟
To be honest with you, I can't remember. I think it was Ali something. I don't remember the full name. It was very straightforward. They wanted to explain to me who the MEK was and why, you know, it was important for Iran to stand against it. You know, they sent me materials, you know, links and things like that. I found out that they were supported by the Saudis and some US officials. You know, they give me a history of the MEK. I visited, you know, the site in Tehran of the bombing, you know, met with former members of the MEK. And, you know, I felt quite strongly that, you know, I wanted to take part in, you know, in their work and actually help them to expose the MEK for what they are, which is basically a cult, not a political party, and certainly not the opposition in Iran. So, you know, it was regular journalistic work. It wasn't, you know, it's not. You often get approached by NGOs, you know, who are trying to get, you know, media coverage. To help them.
مهمترین آدمی که توی این سفر ملاقات کردی از سمت این سازمان کی بود؟ یادت هست؟
No, I mean, I know his name was Ali. That's what I remember. But that was it. I mean, if I was to look through my records, yeah, I probably would find the name. But at the same time, I don't want anyone, you know, to be bothering them, or even make allegations against them for, you know, for what they've done, because they've done nothing wrong other than talk to an analyst from the UK, and they were trying to get help.
کاترین، یه مقدار عجیب نیستش از سمت یه سازمانی دعوت شدی و به یادت نمیاد که با چه کسایی ملاقات کردی در اون سازمان؟
Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. It's not like I don't remember. It's that I don't think it's relevant to this conversation to be dropping names of people who would potentially get in trouble. And I'm not interested in being responsible for, you know, people facing allegations or, you know, being in trouble with the authorities. So I'm not here to tell on people. You know, if people want to find out, they can if they want to. But I'm not going to be the one. Those people were very kind to me. And again, I do not want them to get in trouble because they were associated with me and people assuming that they've done something wrong, or they have link with people that they shouldn't be talking to. I don't think it would be fair after the kindness that they've extended to me.
I would like to ask, let's continue honestly this interview, because you know, I didn't know anything about this organization who invite you to Iran. Okay, if you don't want to answer some of the questions, okay, just be relaxed.
It's just not fair for these people, to be honest with you. They were my friends, and I still hold them in high regards, and I do not want them to be stuck in the middle of a media circus because of me. I wouldn't do that to them.
فقط یک سوالی به وجود میاد، چون شما میخواید این اسما مخفی بمونه برای اینکه از این افراد حفاظت بکنید، درسته؟
Yes.
در مقابل کی؟
سپاه, you know, the whole state apparatus, intelligence services, you know, name it, them, all of them. You know, I believe that there are forces at play in Iran, you know, whether coming out of the government or the opposition, essentially Ahmadinejad's camp, you know, willing to do anything and everything to further their agenda. And if that means hurting people along the way, they would. And I'm not willing to play a part in this. Again, I have a lot of respect for everyone that I've met in Iran. who extended, their friendship and kindness, and I will not be the one to betray their trust.
چرا فکر میکنی که سپاه یا سرویس‌های امنیتی اطلاع ندارن که تو با چه کسی ملاقات کردی، چه کسی تو رو دعوت کرده؟ میدونی که سرویس‌های اطلاعاتی ایران به هر حال روی مسافرین خارجی اشراف کامل دارن. کسی همراه تو نبود از سرویس‌های امنیتی در مدت زمانی که ایران بودی و چرا فکر میکنی که اونها این اطلاعات رو ندارن و این اطلاعات رو نمیخوای بگی و فکر میکنی که اونها این اطلاعات رو ندارن؟
Possibly. I mean, very possibly. I mean, look, Iran is a big country, and I'm pretty sure that, Iran's intelligence services know exactly what they're doing. So everything that you're saying is true. But so they don't need me to say anything if they know it already. What I'm saying is that my personal standing and, is that I do not want to drop names on the off chance that, I might put people in the eye of a storm and potentially cause them harm. If the government wants to do what it wants to do, it's not up to me. I'm saying that my actions I can control, and I refuse to betray friendships and the trust that they've shown me by dropping their name. I don't think it's relevant. Yes, I'm sure that, the intelligence services are aware, but I do not want to play that game. So I'm not interested in dropping names in the media and potentially putting people and their family in a situation that they didn't ask for. I'm responsible for what I do. I choose what I do. I choose what I say, and I do this knowing the consequence of it. I would not force people to be put in a situation that they haven't chosen. I don't believe that it's the right thing to do. And I have a lot of respect for people in Iran. And again, I would not do that to them. But that's my personal, choice. And I don't have to drop names if I don't want to. I mean, if people want to find out, they can. I would not help them.
پس در واقع داری از این افراد در مقابل افکار عمومی دفاع میکنی و هویت اینها رو داری در مقابل افکار عمومی در واقع مخفی میکنی یا حفاظت میکنی به خاطر اینکه سیستم‌های امنیتی جمهوری اسلامی از اونها آگاه هستن. درست میگم؟ درست فهمیدم؟
That's true. The media has been, I would say, quite despicable in Iran in the way that they jumped on the story. So I'm not willing to play, into their narrative, or even in entertaining, certain parties of the opposition, and the kind of things that they could tell about people, make up stories and lies. I refuse to do so. And I don't think that, if by chance security services in Iran do not know all the people that I've spoken to, then why would I volunteer the name?
در زمانی که در ایران بودید با شما قاعدتاً باید یک مأمور امنیتی همراه شما باشه در تمام مکان‌هایی که می‌رفتید به عنوان یک تحلیلگر. آیا اینطور بود؟
No. I mean, unless, the people that I was with were security themselves. But I don't believe I don't believe they were. And no, even, during the conference, I was taken to certain, sites to visit, one of them being the shrine of Ayatollah Khomeini near the airport. There was never anyone with me other than a couple of friends. So unless those friends happened to be served, from the intelligence services and I wasn't aware of it, that I would say no, I wasn't accompanied.
آیا تو مدتی که ایران بودی با مردم کوچه و بازار هم ملاقات داشتی یا فقط ملاقات تو با افراد خاص بوده؟ آیا به مکانهای دیدنی هم رفتی؟ برنامه چی بودش در زمانی که ایران بودی فارغ از حالا اون جلساتی که داشتی؟
Okay, so I went to Qom and I went to Mashhad, and obviously Tehran. So in Tehran, I visited, parks and, various shrines. I went to Evin prison. I just drove around Tehran basically with, with some friends. Went to I think it's called the Hanging Garden, with there's a bridge. I visited those places and it was beautiful. I loved it. I think it was great. And yeah, I was, you know, if I wasn't working, I was in doing press interviews and things like that. I was just, you know, enjoying my time with, you know, friends of mine that I've met either through work or, you know, the friend of a friend who become a friend, you know, things like that. So, you know, went to several restaurants, went to North Tehran. You know, I have, I mean, by now I have quite a few Iranian friends. And, you know, some of them are just, you know, regular people who have nothing to do with politics or the media, you know, who invited me and, you know, took me around to visit their city. It was, you know, as you do. It was very, very normal.
آیا داخل زندان رو دیدی؟ داخل زندان اوین رو دیدی؟
No, inside. So I've seen, they basically show me where, I think it was Ayatollah Khamenei who was held there, you know, with other people. So, you know, I visited, I was shown the place, and one of the guide was actually a former prisoner under the Shah. And, you know, they showed me a documentary. I met a woman who also had been with her daughter, who had been, you know, held in prison and tortured under the Shah. And yeah, so it was very interesting and very, very upsetting too. I had no idea that those things were going on under the Shah.
اوکی. کاترین، چرا باید یه خبرنگاری که در مجموع شاید 18 روز هم بیشتر در ایران حضور نداشته در سالهای مختلف، بایستی درباره یک جنبش اعتراضی در سال 1388 به نام جنبش سبز یک تحلیلی بنویسه که این تحلیل ممکنه خوشایند حکومت باشه؟ چرا این تحلیل رو نوشتی؟ آیا قصد داشتی که به بدنه قدرت در جمهوری اسلامی نزدیک بشی؟
No, look, everything that I've written, even though I wish I didn't, at the time of writing, I believed in and was sincere. You know, it's possible for people to fall for a certain narrative and certain lies. So I was given informations that I believed to be comprehensive at the time, and I made up my mind on the basis of that. I then find out that everything that I have been told, you know, were manipulated and they were not giving me the full pictures. So, but this is how Iran's government operates. They bring, you know, Western thinkers and intellectuals and media people. They give them a certain narrative. They present facts that have been redacted, and a lot of the time we fall for it, because Iran is very much misunderstood, and there's always sometimes there's a strong desire to try to understand. But when the other party is not giving you the full pictures, obviously whatever it is that you're going to believe will not be the whole truth. So a lot of the time I was stepping up in defense of the government because I believed what I was saying. Obviously I was asked to, otherwise my article was not going to get published, but I believe everything that I said. And I thought that my analysis were correct, and that, you know, Iran was being misportrayed in Western media, and I wanted to try to fix this. Unfortunately, you know, I was played and I was a pawn in other people's game, which is why people are angry now, because, you know, I said one thing and now I am saying, you know, things that are completely different, because I woke up to the propaganda machine and I'm trying to set the record straight. And I think it's important for people to understand that those things happen, that, you know, it's not because people are stupid, you know, and things happen in your life. And I think the great disservice would be to be quiet when I know better. So I think for me, it was important to speak against it.
همچنان هم باور دارید به اون چیزی که نوشتید در اون مقاله؟ یعنی همچنان فکر می‌کنید اون مقاله درسته؟
I did not have the information that I needed to write an accurate analysis. So I've wrote an article that was very one-sided, and if I was asked to do it again, I wouldn't, because I believe very differently. But everything that I've written, however wrong I may have been back then, I believed. And I stand by it because at the time, that was my belief. And those were my ideas. You know, I've changed because people grew up in their career. You have the right to change your mind. This is a sign of intelligence. When people gain more information, they change their mind. You want this to happen. You want people to be given the full pictures. At the time, I wasn't giving the full pictures. And I woke up to this reality, and I'm trying to fix this by speaking against it.
پس تایید میکنی در زمانی که مقاله رو نوشتی اطلاعات کافی نداشتی؟
100%.
نکته‌ای که هستش، آیا در زمان انتخابات و شما ارتباطی با تیم محمود احمدی نژاد داشتید یا خیر؟
No.
اونها از شما درخواست نکردن مقاله‌ای برای در مورد انتخابات بنویسید؟
I don't believe so. If they did, I didn't know who they were. There's so many different media in Iran, and a lot of the time, you know, they're claiming to be working for certain people when in fact they're not. I'm not an expert on Iran, so it's quite. I mean, you know, it would be very easy for me to believe someone and you know and find out that they were lying. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe that I did. No.
کاترین، بیا با هم صادقانه صحبت کنیم. برخی از منتقدین شما میگن که شما در یک مقطعی مقاله‌هایی نوشتید، رفتاری از خودتون داشتید مثل حجاب، مثل سربندی که داشتید و این باعث شد که شما به بدنه قدرت در جمهوری اسلامی نزدیک بشید. بعد از اینکه اطلاعات لازم رو به دست آوردید و روابط رو پیدا کردید، در واقع تغییر کردید و به هر حال به یک در واقع آدم دیگه‌ای تبدیل شدید. شما به این چه جوابی میدید؟
Look, ultimately people will believe what they want to believe. I can only speak for myself. Quite frankly, I don't really care what people think, because I care about what I do and what I believe, and to be true to myself. Initially, no, I was wearing the headscarf. First of all, when you go to Iran, you have to wear the headscarf. Let's be honest, or you go to jail. So didn't have a choice. I wrestled my entire life with the headscarf because it's not something that I never felt comfortable with. I did it to comply with people's expectation within the Muslim community. I always defended the right for women to wear the headscarf or not, because I don't believe that it defines a person. I think that demanding of women to have this outwardly, symbol of modesty, very hypocritical. I think modesty comes from your behavior, not a headscarf. And so I just very simply decided that I wasn't going to wear it. That then created a massive backlash where I lost a lot of friends because of it. People refused to speak to me. And it kind of proved to me that I was right in doing what I did, because if people only speak to you when you're wearing a headscarf, it's not a true friendship and there's no real respect. And so it was, what I've done was my personal choice. I decided not to wear it anymore. I didn't think, oh, it's going to harm my career, because quite frankly, I didn't care. I'm more interested in doing what I need to do for myself, to be true to myself, and whatever consequences come from that, I will handle it. If people want to see something else in it, thinking that it was a grand manipulation, that's their choice. Like I said, everything that I've done, every step I've made in my career was true at the time to what I believed. I've changed my mind. I'm allowed. And if people can't accept that, it's their problem.
کاترین، چرا حجاب عادی مثل یا حجاب اینقدر سفت و سخت داشتی؟ این یه خورده غیر طبیعی به نظر میاد. شما به حجاب میگه اعتقاد نداشتی ولی حجاب خیلی کامل داشتی، یعنی حجابی که شاید افراد معتقد مذهبی از اون پیروی میکنن رو داشتی. این یه جورایی در واقع این شایبه رو به ذهن متبادر میکنه که با این حجاب میخواستی یه جورایی نزدیک بشی و دل افرادی که به قدرت نزدیک هستن رو به دست بیاری و بتونی در بدنه قدرت در جمهوری اسلامی نفوذ بکنی. آیا درسته؟
No. Look, when I went to Iran, I was asked to dress that way. It wasn't my choice. People went out of their way to buy me, an abaya or chador, whatever you call it, and asked me to wear it. That was very simple. So I wasn't going out of my way to blend in. I was asked to wear this, being told that, it was regulation and that this is what I need to wear. I'm very yes.
تو خانوم‌های اطراف تو میدونستی که حجاب تو با حجاب اونها حتی زنان ایرانی فرق میکنه. چه حسی داشتی؟
I didn't, because look, when you go into a new country, which is culturally different from yours, and people from that country are asking you to wear certain, to dress in a certain way, the polite thing to do, the respectful thing to do is to abide by the rules, and so I did. Now, obviously I've seen that in Iran, there's a whole different array and people wear different clothes, but I wasn't there to judge people and ask questions as into like, why is this woman wearing this? Why is this woman wearing that? People have asked me, they kindly invited me to their country and asking me to play by their rules. I did, as you do. If you go into a church, in France, you are asked to dress in a certain way. It would be rude not to. So it was purely on my part, to be respectful of the people who invited me and in Iranian society in general. I didn't want to be disrespectful. I didn't want to be rude. And so I complied with their wishes. Quite frankly, I didn't mind. It wasn't a burden on me particularly. I lived in Yemen. So, in Yemen, you have to wear similar kind of attire. That's absolutely fine by me.
حتی نخواستی که برای دریافت آزادی بیشتر تلاشی بکنی یا یه مبارزه‌ای بکنی به عنوان یک زن؟
This is a tricky question. Yes, I would always defend women's rights to choose what they want to wear, how they want to wear it, and be respectful of their choice. Whether or not I would choose that for myself, I think it's important, as a general rule. Now, I'm not so arrogant as to think that me, a Western, girl from France can come to Iran and tell women what to do. It's not my place. Do I support them? Should they choose to fight against the headscarf or choose, a different way of living? Absolutely. Am I there to speak on their behalf? No, because I have no understanding of their life journey. I have never lived in Iran. I do not know, what they went through, as their personal journey. Like, who am I to tell people what to do? Iran is a very, people have their own culture, their own religious belief. They have a whole tradition behind them that I can't possibly understand because I do not know enough. So I don't believe that it would be my place to tell them what to do, or even to go to the media and make claims about how I feel Iranian women should conduct themselves. If they want to, be religiously conservative and cover themselves from head to toe, I support that. Should they want to walk in a bikini in the streets of Tehran and feel empowered, I would support that. Am I there to tell them what to do? Never.
ولی خودت حاضر نشدی که حتی درخواست بکنی برای اینکه بخوای حجاب راحت‌تری داشته باشی و اون حجاب رو در واقع پذیرفتی یا خودت انتخاب کردی؟
I didn't choose it. No, it was given to me. Look, again, when you go to a different country, whether you're comfortable or not is not relevant if you want to be respectful of other people's tradition. And I understood that. I was raised in respect of other people. So if you go somewhere, if you go to eat at someone's home and you do not like the food, would you ask them to cook you something else? Absolutely not. You eat your food and you say thank you. And you appreciate the fact that someone extended kindness towards you and made you feel welcome. So as far as I was concerned, I was going to shut up, put up with it, and be respectful of other people, the same way I would expect them to come to my country and show me the same respect.
تا اونجایی که مصاحبه‌های دیگه شما رو دنبال کردم، شما با چند تا از شرکت‌هایی که خدمات امنیتی هم ارائه می‌کردن کار کردید، درسته؟
You're going to need to be a lot more specific because some, people used name was thrown around of company who I allegedly work with that I never work with. So you're going to need to be a lot more specific as to who you're talking about.
به صورت مشخص آیا شما کارشناس سازمان ویکی استارت اسرائیل بودید یا نه؟ or ویکی استارت؟
Wiki Strat, yes.
ویکی استارت بودید، درسته؟
Wiki Strat is a think tank. So it's not security. I mean, they might do security on the side, but it's essentially a think tank. It's an open source think tank. I worked with them for 6 months. I think it was around 2013, I think. And you don't actually get paid, because what they do is that they have a pool of experts. They ask you to basically contribute to a conversation that they're having. So it's not exactly work, it's more an open discussion with colleagues in order to have different perspectives and opinions on a certain subject. Okay. I was asked to contribute on Yemen, which I did. My job was for 6 months to contribute to the issue of Yemen civil war, and that was it. I didn't work with them after that. And, people made this massive show, alleging that because WikiStrat's founder happens to be Jewish and Israeli, therefore he must be a spy. I can't speak, to every single person that runs, various NGOs and think tanks or even media. If I give you an example, if you contribute an analysis to Al Jazeera network on TV, can you be held responsible for the opinions and belief system of the person who actually set up, Al Jazeera? No. I was doing my job as an analyst. And again, as a Western, person, I don't judge. I don't spend my time trying to dissect every single organization to find the one Jewish person or the one person that might have traveled to Tel Aviv and just assume, oh, they're bad people. No. I'm asked to do a certain task. I decide whether or not I'm actually, I can contribute to that task. And that's all I need to know. As long as this company is not doing anything illegal and nefarious, I have no problem working with them. Because again, in the UK or in France or in Europe in general, you do not judge people on the basis of who they work with, but rather what they the job that they do. And my analysis was on point. And I can only be held responsible for that. If people have an issue with WikiStrat, not my problem.
اوکی، تایید میکنید که با سازمان‌های امنیتی کار کردی، مثل حالا سازمان‌ها یا شرکت‌های امنیتی کار کردی؟
WikiStrat, yes, I worked with them 6 months on Yemen.
نه فقط با سایر سازمان‌های امنیتی هم کار کردی، مثل سازمان امنیتی کانادا؟
No, that's not true. What happened was they reached out to me asking me to work with them. We had a conversation. I sent them my CV. I then decided that what they were asking me to do.
Excuse me, to Canada Security Service? You're talking about this? Okay.
Yeah, it was called Anderson Consulting or something. I then had a discussion with the founder of this organization and, decided that what he needed from me, I could not provide because I didn't have the expertise. And so I told him that, I was a political analyst and I wasn't able to help him in what he was doing. And so, we decided that was it. Now, because my bio was somewhat attached to his website, because initially he wanted to bring me on as a consultant, people made movies. That's fine. I never worked with them. If people had actually bothered to reach out to this organization and actually ask them to verify the information, they would tell you the same thing I'm telling you, that I've never worked with them other than had one conversation, about what they wanted me to do and me declining the offer because I could not provide the service they wanted me to provide. Very simple.
کاترین، فکر می‌کنی که اگر یک سازمان امنیتی یا یک سازمان جاسوسی بخواد یک جاسوس رو به ایران بفرسته که اون جاسوس هم خانوم باشه، باید اون خانوم چه ویژگی‌هایی داشته باشه؟ چه کار باید بکنه تا بتونه به بدنه قدرت در ایران نزدیک بشه؟ تو هم سازمان‌های جاسوسی رو میشناسی، هم در واقع بدنه قدرت در جمهوری اسلامی رو. فکر می‌کنی اگر یک سازمان جاسوسی بخواد یک جاسوس بفرسته، اون زن باید چه ویژگی‌هایی داشته باشه؟